if you choose to Sabbath only on Sundays, by Monday evening, isn't it just so easy to have slipped into feeling unfocused, reactive, and leagues away from acting on any strategic long-term growth? Well, there's hope. I've stumbled on a system that has helped me, at least, be proactive, focused, and I take actual strategic steps towards growth each time I do it. And it only takes like 10 minutes once a week. I've been experimenting with Sabbath for months now, and it turns out to be quite a challenge to get the optimum recharge. But doing this thing I'm about to tell you seems to be the critical element that turns the switch on feeling recharged, for me at least. I hope it can help you. Whether you're a Christian or not, life gets messy. You want to do your best with your marriage, family, work, even pursuing your calling. At church, each Sunday we get big dreams of how we want to change our lives. But somehow, by Tuesday afternoon, it seems to just slip away. And we're kind of exhausted and floundering again. That's when I realized something. God looked back at his work, assessed it, and said, now that's good, y'all. Do we do that? My solution to this used to be doing these big monthly getaways. I'd drive for like an hour and a half to an Airbnb outside of Atlanta, spend the whole day assessing, because back then I didn't really have good guiding questions. It took me the whole day. But I was thinking about my life, dreaming about the future, and I loved those times. I should probably do those again. But here's what I noticed when I got back. About after 1 week, 90% of my big revelations had slipped off my mind. A month is just a little too long for human brains to do this, at least mine. But when I try to picture doing that whole assessment process daily, it just seems a little bit burdensome. So here's the process that transformed my Sabbath, and therefore the rest of my week. First, this isn't crucial, but try finding just a beautiful place to be. Get a coffee, sit in a nice comfortable chair, do something where you're just really happy and content to be there. All right, now grab a journal, or in full transparency, I built this into my app, Creature Habits, because I knew I'd actually do it if it was frictionless. But honestly, a notebook works just fine. Start by writing the categories that actually matter in your life. For me, it's my wife, my family, my friends, my work, and my passion work. You'll have different ones. The point is, these are the areas that you want to see progress and real growth. All right, now I'll tell you where the magic happens. These are 3 strategic questions that we prayerfully ask for each of those categories that we just listed. Question number 1. What went really well this week in that category? This is the celebration part. This is you being like God looking back and saying, dang, that's awesome. UC Davis did a research study that shows that people who regularly reflect on positive experiences have a 23% higher life satisfaction, so and lower stress levels. So you're literally rewiring your brain to do this. All right, question number 2. What do I want to do better this week? It could be how to avoid what I did wrong last week, but it can be a lot more inspiring. What are the little things that I can do this week that really make a big difference, to really rise above the normal expected stuff? Maybe this will give you an example of kind of what I was thinking about. 1 week in the category of work, I wrote down bring smoothies for everyone in the office. It cost me like $60, which is a chunk. But you know what? That's the type of thing not everyone thinks to do, but it could have a really big impact. Doing something remarkable sometimes just takes a moment to think of something small that others haven't taken the time to think to do. Another research call out, there was a Harvard study on adult development. It said that, in fact, it was the longest study on happiness ever done. It found that the quality of our relationships is the number 1 predictor of a long, happy life. So be intentional about those relationships. All right, so we had what went well last week, what did you want to do better this week, and here's question number 3. What are the actual steps to get these things done? This is where I imagine most people fail, and where I used to fail. We always have great intentions, and they or we just never execute. So don't write, be a better husband, write, schedule a date, and then text your wife right then, or poke your head into wherever she is and say, hey baby, you free on Thursday? Also, like, an example might be, don't write, call my dad more. Actually drop an event into your calendar that says on 2 p.m. every Thursday, I'm going to call my dad. If it's a recurring thing, you can put it into your rule of life tracker, which is another part of my app. But you could use literally any system to keep track of your recurring habits. Because here's the truth. You won't remember to do it. Your systems will, though. You have to systematize the trigger that will remind you. Here's another quick research call out. A study from the American Psychological Association found that people who write down specific implementation intentions are 91% more likely to follow through. All right, so why does this actually work when other things don't? First, the cadence is right. Weekly is frequent enough that you stay connected to your goals, but not so frequent that it becomes like a burden every day. Second, you're celebrating wins. Your brain is literally rewired to notice progress instead of just problems. And that's motivating. And that makes you want to do better next week. Third, you're being specific. You're not relying on willpower or memory. You're building a system. And systems beat willpower every single time. And here's the thing I didn't expect. This became the most consistently fulfilling part of my entire week. Not because I'm accomplishing more, but because I'm seeing the progress. I'm celebrating the wins, and I'm being intentional about what I want to do better. So here's what I invite you to do. This week, try it. Treat yourself with a few minutes in your favorite coffee shop or some great chair you have. Grab a journal, pick your categories, ask yourself those 3 questions, and just see what happens. And then come join us in the Spiritual Disciplines Lab. It's my free school community where people are doing exactly this. We're experimenting with modern ways to practice ancient spiritual disciplines. We're sharing what works and what doesn't, and we're building real relationships with God and with each other in the process. A link to the Spiritual Disciplines Lab is in the description. And if you want to use the Creature Habits app to make this even easier, just try that too. But honestly, just start wherever you are with whatever you have, and we will see you in the lab. All right, if this was helpful at all to you, feel free to subscribe. I'm going to be doing a bunch of experiments on different spiritual disciplines to see what actually works for this super skeptical, creative ADHD brain. And I'd love to show you what I learn along the way. And jump into that school community because we'd like to learn from you.